Have you ever wondered why some dark-skinned African Americans seem to harbor resentment towards their light-skinned counterparts? It's a question that might make you uncomfortable, but it's one that needs to be asked. This is the concept of colorism, a less discussed but deeply rooted issue within the African American community. You see, colorism is the discrimination based on skin color, favoring individuals with lighter skin over those with darker skin. It's a divisive issue that's been around for centuries, stemming from a historical context that includes the painful legacies of slavery and systemic racism. It's a narrative that has painted a distorted picture of beauty, worth, and social standing. But why is this still a thing in the year 2024? And how can we, as a society, work towards eradicating this harmful mentality? Let's dive into this complex issue and see if we can find a way to change this narrative. To understand colorism, we must first look back at our history. You see, colorism, this preference for lighter skin, didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's a deeply rooted issue, tracing its origins back to the era of slavery. Back in those days, lighter-skinned slaves were often favored over their darker-skinned counterparts. They were usually the offspring of slave owners and their slaves, and as a result, they were given somewhat preferential treatment. They were allowed to work indoors, in what were considered better conditions, while darker-skinned slaves were forced to toil under the harsh sun out in the fields. Now, don't get me wrong, slavery was a horrendous institution, no matter where you worked or what shade your skin was. But this division, this favoritism based on skin color, planted the seeds of colorism that we see today. Fast forward to the post-slavery era, this preference for lighter skin didn't just disappear. It was perpetuated and even amplified by societal norms and media portrayals. Lighter skin was associated with beauty, success, and wealth. Darker skin, on the other hand, was often linked to poverty, crime, and a lack of education. These stereotypes, though unjust and baseless, have had a profound influence on the African American community's perceptions of beauty and success. The impact of this history is far-reaching and deep-seated. It's not just about who's seen as more attractive or who's more likely to succeed. It's about self-esteem, self-worth, and identity. It's about the messages we're sending to our children about what it means to be beautiful, successful, and ultimately human. This historical backdrop sets the stage for the current state of colorism we see today. It's a complex issue, rooted in centuries of history and reinforced by modern societal norms. But understanding this history is the first step towards changing the narrative and dismantling the harmful effects of colorism. Fast forward to today, and the effects of colorism are still apparent. Colorism, like an uninvited guest, has overstayed its welcome in our society. It's not just a relic of the past, but a present-day reality that continues to shape our world in ways both subtle and profound. It affects our opportunities, our relationships, and the way we perceive ourselves and others. Let's talk about the job market, for example. It's no secret that the world of employment can be a tough one to navigate. But imagine adding an extra layer of difficulty because of the shade of your skin. Studies have shown that darker-skinned African Americans often face tougher odds when it comes to landing jobs or promotions. It's a harsh reality where merit takes a backseat to melanin. And then we have relationships. It's common to hear phrases like the lighter the better or the darker, the more mysterious in casual conversations. But these seemingly harmless statements propagate stereotypes that tie skin color to attractiveness and worth. A lighter-skinned African American might be seen as more desirable, while their darker counterparts are often pushed to the margins, their beauty unacknowledged and unappreciated. Finally, let's not forget the media. Our screens are awash with images that perpetuate the idea of light skin as the ideal. From music videos to movies, lighter-skinned African Americans often take center stage, while those with darker skin are relegated to the shadows. This skewed representation not only fuels the fire of colorism, but also creates a distorted image of our diverse and beautiful community. But it's important to remember that these are not just abstract concepts. These are real experiences that impact real people. Each example, each story is a stark reminder of the insidious nature of colorism. Colorism, as we see, has far-reaching effects that extend beyond mere skin tone. It's a societal issue that demands our attention and our action. So let's roll up our sleeves and tackle it head on, because it's high time we showed colorism the door. Now let's delve into how colorism affects relationships within the African American community. Imagine you're at a family reunion. You're surrounded by loved ones, but you can't shake the feeling of being different. Your cousin, who's lighter-skinned, receives compliments about her good hair and fair skin. Meanwhile, your dark complexion is met with silence or backhanded compliments. This is a common experience for many African Americans, a subtle yet powerful demonstration of colorism. But why does this happen? Why do some dark-skinned African Americans harbor resentment towards their light-skinned counterparts and vice versa? Well, it's a complex issue steeped in history, but let's break it down. The perception of lighter skin as better or more desirable has been ingrained in our society for centuries. It's a toxic legacy of slavery and colonialism, where lighter-skinned individuals often receive preferential treatment. This legacy still persists today, manifesting in our beauty standards, media representation, and yes, even our relationships. This preferential treatment can breed resentment and division within the African American community. Dark-skinned individuals may feel overlooked, undervalued, or even ostracized due to their complexion. Conversely, light-skinned individuals may feel guilt, resentment, or pressure to conform to these skewed beauty standards. This tension can strain relationships, fueling a cycle of division and misunderstanding. But it's not just about personal relationships. Colorism can also affect professional relationships. Studies have shown that lighter-skinned individuals are often perceived as more competent, trustworthy, and attractive. This can lead to unequal opportunities and discrimination in the workplace, further deepening the divide. Colorism is a deeply rooted issue, and its effects are far-reaching. It's not just about the color of our skin, but how we perceive and value ourselves and each other. It's about the narratives we perpetuate and the standards we uphold. It's about the ways we relate to one another and the ways we choose to celebrate our diverse shades of beauty. It's clear that colorism does more than just divide us. It threatens the unity of our community. So, how can we begin to change this narrative? It's a question that's been echoing in our minds for a while now. The answer isn't simple, but it's definitely possible, and it starts with us. Firstly, let's talk about beauty. Beauty, they say, is in the eye of the beholder. But who's the beholder? Right now, it's an industry that's been dictating what's beautiful and what's not for far too long. It's time to challenge this. Let's redefine beauty, not as a single shade, but as a spectrum. A spectrum that celebrates all hues and tones, from the lightest to the darkest, and everything in between. Because beauty isn't a single color, it's a palette, and everyone should feel represented. And while we're at it, let's challenge stereotypes too. It's time to debunk the myth that lighter is better or that darker is less desirable. These stereotypes are not only harmful, they're downright wrong. So the next time you hear someone making a sweeping statement about skin color, stand up and speak out. Challenge their perception, because change begins with a conversation. And that brings us to our next point. We need to foster conversations about colorism within our community. We need to stop shying away from this topic and bring it to the forefront. Talk about it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make it a topic that's not taboo, but one that's openly discussed. Because the more we talk about it, the more we understand it. And the more we understand it, the better equipped we are to combat it. Education is key here. Let's teach our children about the beauty of diversity, about the harm of stereotypes, and about the importance of unity. Let's ensure that the next generation grows up in a world where colorism is a thing of the past. By taking these steps, we can start to break down the barriers of colorism and foster unity within our community. And remember, change starts with you, so let's get started. Colorism is a complex issue with deep historical roots, but it's not insurmountable. As we've journeyed through its history, we've seen how this issue has created a divide within our community, causing some of our brothers and sisters to harbor resentment based on skin tone. We've explored how it affects relationships, creating a divide that goes beyond mere pigmentation. But amidst this, we've also seen the glimmers of change. We've seen how, by challenging these narratives, by celebrating all shades of our skin, we can begin to heal these divisions. We've seen how empowering it can be to embrace our diversity, to honor every hue in our community. This journey has highlighted the importance of understanding, acknowledging, and tackling colorism. Because at the end of the day, we are one community, bound by shared histories and dreams. It's up to us, as a community, to challenge colorism and embrace the diversity of our skin tones. After all, our strength lies in our unity, not in our division.